Alrighty, let's get started. Welcome to another webinar hosted by Andy Starnes of Insight Training. Today, Andy's going to take an in-depth look at the AttackPRO, which is our pistol grip style decision-making camera, and hopefully aim to answer a lot of the commonly asked questions. Also, if you do have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll try and either answer them one-to-one or pose them at the end. One thing I just wanted to quickly mention is that we do have a free burn program for this product. If you got an upcoming burn, you want to schedule a burn, please register, get yourself a free camera, a demo. That's what they're there for. Put it through its paces, see how mixed things, simplifies everything. Compare it with the cameras you currently have in service, or the cameras that you're considering. We offer that program because we're quite confident that you're going to choose AttackPRO. History would suggest that. So please check that out after the webinar and register for our phone program. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Andy, and he'll get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me again. Like to say, I always say the most valuable gift we have is time. So I'll try to make the most of yours. And speaking of time, I want you to know how much time Seek Thermal and my team has invested in developing and fine-tuning what we consider one of the finest thermal imaging products to date, as far as what firefighters can use to make their lives simpler, safer, smarter, and do their job in a way that we call intelligently aggressive. Since the beginning of this project, Seek Thermal has allowed me and my team to work alongside with them to help develop this. And basically, we are the ones that burned it, broke it, tore it up, gave them feedback. This works, this doesn't work. And this manufacturer listen to average firefighters like myself and my team and put that feedback back into the camera. And I want you to know how uncommon that is, because I've worked with manufacturers for quite some time, and typically they hand you a product after it's built. We were involved from the drawing to the final burns, and we're still working on it and fine tuning it. They're not done. That's what I want you to hear. And this is 500 hours of actual burn time with this device. And this is my group. This is not counting all the hands-on time that my guys have had with it on fires and other things that you will see, which is pretty impressive to see some of the shots and video that they've captured. And just to get you fired up and start right, I have some wonderful friends in Germany called the International Fire and Rescue Training Group. Stefan Feitsch and his group become very close personal friends of mine. I go over every couple of years for charity, and we're doing a TIC Academy in November this year with them. And this is just one picture of them letting me play in their stream development prop, which shows you proper improper application and what happens when you point streams in different ways with fire coming at you. And you'll get to see the AttackPRO where it shines. So check this out. So we'll get started right. So we're sitting in this prop, and they show me what happens if I put a fog stream low. They show me what happens if I gas cool high. They show me if I point the stream up and do brief bursts. But look at the clarity and detail in this device. You're able to see me and that firefighter down low while we still have the heat around us. And I want to point that out to you right off the bat, because that's something that myself and instructor Joey Bax and I, who were involved in the final burn, saw when we got to do the final test burns, and really just opened our eyes to something that is not common in thermal imaging. And why that is this. I've been in the fire service for over 30 years now, and been playing with overpriced flashlights, AKA thermal imaging cameras, for almost 14 years, and I'm still consider myself a student. I don't know anything, I'm just learning, just like you. I have extensive training, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert by any means. It just tells you that I have broke, burned, and tested a lot of things. And one thing I've struggled with is that, as trying to teach this to firefighters of how valuable it is, there was always a disadvantage or a contraindication, and we're going to talk about that. But some of that had to do with the technology itself and the environment we worked in. And what I learned is many of these cameras perform poorly in the first entry phase of the fire. Many firefighters would complain about when they would make entry about unable to see when they were remote from the fire, 2 rooms away, 3 rooms away. So low to moderate heat to us, not to the victim, but low to moderate heat conditions, the camera would not perform well. Majority of cameras, once they picked up heat, would start showing convection currents and colorization in different forms and ways. But this camera did something that no other camera did before. If I had at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit, this camera rocked. I'll tell you straight up, if you want to know the good and bad and ugly of every camera, I'll tell you, this is not a lost person search camera. It's not a law enforcement camera. It's not to be used for anything in ambient temperatures. This is a fire ground camera designed to be used by company officers and firefighters doing fire attack, search, RIT, and low to moderate to high heat situations. This is not for you to go look around the day room and look for handprints and butt prints in seats. This camera will make your life easier in the respect of working in the ideal H environment. So this camera did something that no other camera did before. It performed better in high sensitivity and low sensitivity. Those of you who've heard me talk about this know that I am very big on making the firefighters' lives simpler and safer and easier, because you have enough challenges, especially in a reduced staffing environment and the way the world is now. NIST has this in one of their publications, talks about the stress of a fire event. Basically dictates that the operation of these devices should be kept as simple as possible. And SEAT did that by helping us make this device simple and easy to operate. If you hold it, you'll notice your gloved hand, your thumb will fall easily into the power button or the flashlight button. That's it, on, off, flashlight. There is no switches, gauges, fancy icons, or difficult color palettes to interpret. This was written about a long time ago, and one of the first recommendations in a thermal imaging workshop. You turn this thing on, you go to work. That's the beauty of it. And it turns on in 5 seconds and it's ready to work. So, but before we're ready to work, I need you to understand something that continues to come up in conversations and trainings and educations. If you don't have training and education on these devices, you're basically holding an overpriced flashlight and you're going to have problems. And here's why you're going to have problems. We see this consistently across the United States, Canada, Germany, wherever we go. Number one, if you don't carry the device, you can't use it, can't be efficient. 50% of the time, per our survey with Firehouse Magazine, this device is left on the charger of the truck because I don't like it, the batteries stink, whatever. If you're not carrying it and you are the company officer, you are the designated adult, you are shirking your responsibilities, bar none. Your job is to help the citizen, help save their property, and watch over your people. And you can't do that in an environment you can't see. Okay, you need everything you got to help people. We're the only organization that I know of that refuses to use a device to help us in zero visibility, while the mining industry, divers, everybody uses anything they can. Special forces use night vision, infrared, anything they can to make their environment better. But us, nah, we're not using that because I don't want to over rely on technology. Let me have your cell phone for 6 weeks and let's see how you feel about that. The other issue is we failed by training incorrectly. We use fake smoke and then we heat up victims. Those of you who heard me preach about this understand that a victim doesn't present always the same in every fire and depending on the camera. So background temperature, body temperature, and the camera itself will dictate how that victim shows up. So the victim, who is 92 degrees if they're alive, roughly skin temperature, in a 200-degree environment relatively, is not going to show up white hot like you taught a rookie with fake smoke with a heated mannequin. So we got to fix that. And you got to help me with that because I can't fix every consensus standard out there and how we do training. But 1403 needs to be revised. That's all I'm going to say on that. We fail by reading the spot temperature. There are still firefighters and fire departments even that advocate using that little number in the bottom right-hand corner. This device is a qualitative device used to give you relative or apparent temperatures, which are uncompensated temperature measurements. They are not exact measurements. They're not even close. I can spend 3 hours with you on the topic of the word emissivity, atmospheric attenuation, and how that camera can throw you off if you're not careful. So we're using it as a diagnostic tool to see live fire and layout and apparent temperatures, not exacts. Know that up front. Check out the danger of the spot temperature. We'll share that with you later on why you should understand that. The other issue is end user behavior. We fail to wipe the lens. You step into a fire environment from outside to inside, the first thing that happens, face piece fogs up. And what do we not do after we wipe our face piece? We don't wipe the lens of the camera. The camera does not have a windshield wiper on it. If you're standing up, number one, that's a problem. And if you don't wipe the lens of the camera periodically, it will develop moisture particulate and the image will degrade. And you'll hear firefighters say, it whited out or I had a bunch of gray. Big problem. We fail by scanning incorrectly. You see firefighters sticking the camera up high first, which is how we were taught, how we taught initially. Joey Baxa just did a great video on this. IFSTA even corrected in their textbook recently. You start low. Where are victims found? 58% of victims per firefighter rescue survey are found on the floor. And they told me the first thing to do after telling me to look for live fire and layout is stick the camera towards the ceiling. Well, if you come crawling across your ceiling, I'm not coming in your fire. Sorry. I start where victims are found, get that layout, and then bring the camera up. And you want to try to keep it out of that convective current, because the minute that camera sees high heat, in most cameras, the image degrades and you lose that discernible detail where the victim might be. Company officers, this is for you. If you're doing a size up, you need a camera. You need to take an inspection class, an industrial class, or class from us on how to use that during size up and how you can find the fire, the hottest part, the coldest part, where the flow path is, where it's going, where it's been at going, and know that this can help you enhance your strategies and tactics. And if you're standing up in the heat and sticking the camera in it and expecting it to work, good luck. The germanium window on the front of that camera has the same failure temperature relatively to your face piece. And it will fog up and it will not produce a good image. And then the other one, which is my pet peeve with Hollywood and manufacturers included, they show firefighters wandering around in the dark, holding the camera, looking through the camera as they walk or move. Do not do that. You scan, you communicate, and you put it down. Because if you walk around with it in front of your face, you will actually slow down your efforts, miss things, create tunnel vision, get hurt, injured, or worse. And the biggest thing is firefighters were either not trained at all, or everybody bought into the situational awareness tick craze and they threw away the decision-making cameras. Situational awareness ticks are amazing, but they don't replace what we're talking about today. You need a decision-making camera in the decision maker's hands. And the biggest issue is firefighters quit using them because guess what? It failed and I'll never use it again. To quote my instructor, Thomas Anderson, I bet your cell phones failed you before. I bet your cars broke down on you before. Well, you didn't walk to work and you darn sure didn't leave your cell phone at home. So let's fix these issues so we can start using these devices properly. As I mentioned, there are situational awareness ticks out there, and in their proper context, they are done. They do us a good service to get us home because they're designed to prevent firefighter disorientation. In my opinion, Seek Thermal's developed the best one out there, which is the FirePro 300. But you need to know the difference between these two different models, because 40% of the fire service doesn't even know the difference. They're buying the cheap ones, and then they realize, well, I don't like this one. Well, this doesn't work as well. Well, you might want to learn why. We made that easy for you with Seek Thermal. Here's a free 1-hour webinar. You scan this QR code and it will tell you the difference and help your department make better decisions when purchasing. Because there is a huge difference between these models on this screen individually, and a huge difference between them when you start looking at decision-making cameras. The FirePro 300 is the next level ultimate situational awareness camera. This is a free webinar for you to click on this and learn all about it. We're not going to focus on that today, but I'm a big resource guy and I love millennials. A lot of people complain about millennials. You know why I love millennials? They look stuff up. Keep looking it up, keep challenging stuff, keep questioning stuff. And we're going to give you more information so you can do that. Don't believe me. Go look it up. Go read about it. Look at vetted resources. Use something called Google Scholar. Look at peer-reviewed documents. Don't just look at magazine articles. Check it out. Read, look at our webinar, follow up with the resources, then send us questions, and we'll be glad to help you. That thrills us that people are reading and digging deep. Keep doing that. So here's a little highlight of that device before we get into the AttackPRO of why Seek Thermal has changed the market in a good way. You've got two devices that give you life-changing performance and detail, one for the firefighter, for everybody, and one for the company officer, and they both perform the same with the same color palettes, easy to use. Check out the detail and clarity in the FirePro 300. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't talk about anything unless we burned with it and burn with it extensively. So what I'm about to share with you is about the AttackPRO, the AttackPRO Plus, two different models made by Seek Thermal. that are decision-making cameras. One is your standard and one is your NFPA certified. We've made life easy for you. I know a lot of people work a lot or work multiple jobs and don't have the time to dig through hundreds of pages of material. So we try to summarize things for you. We did an NFPA 1801 webinar on what is NFPA 1801, why is it important for you to understand. And if your department's using grant monies such as AFG grant monies, you are required to buy NFPA certified cameras. Don't wait until you fill out the grant application and find out you messed up. That happens a lot. Firefighters don't read the fine print, myself included. Ask my wife about me reading instructions on putting together an IKEA cabinet. You find a very frustrated firefighter with extra parts. So we need to read the instructions. So let's make life easier. Check out our free NFPA 1801 certified AttackPRO Plus webinar on why NFPA 1801 is important, how to understand the highlights, and make sure you get special assistance and grants from people like my good friend David Hesselmeyer, and understand how those people can help you with your grants. So let's talk about this device. Number one, device is made in America. Number two, this device is tough. I tried to destroy it. I want you to know that. I beat it to death, threw it out a third floor window, left it in a flashover container, did all kind of bad things to it. And eventually I found a couple little tiny failure points, but I didn't break it like I thought I would. And that's after 500 hours. Has a 6-hour battery life. The battery is detachable, so if your battery goes low, you can change it out. Integrated batteries sound great until you realize it's dead and I can't change it out and I have to have 2 cameras. This camera has the widest field of view on the market, allowing you to see more of the bad stuff before it gets a hold of you, or see more of the good things like trying to find the victim and get them out. We don't want tunnel vision. When you go from a 60-degree vertically to 170-degree horizontally field of view on the human eye down to as low as 31 by 40 on some of these cameras, you are losing a lot of field of view. One of the things we teach is we teach technique before technology. We look at the building with our training and our eyesight long before we pick up that camera. If you pick up that camera first, you are limiting your field of view. But the AttackPRO gives you 42 vertically by 57 degrees horizontally. No one has that tall or wide field of view. Has the standard 320 by 240 resolution that NFPA requires. It is the only manufacturer on the market that uses something called mixed gain mode, which we'll talk about. Has a 25 hertz refresh rate, and we'll share with you how that outperforms many 60 hertz cameras. So a lot of firefighters just look at paper specs and don't actually test it in performance to see what it'll do, and it will shock you. And then it has one of the lower thermal sensitivities on the market. A millikelvin is 1,000th of a degree. NFPA says you have to have no greater than 80 millikelvin. Seek comes in at 35 millikelvin. Most of your good cameras are 50 and below. Has a built-in flashlight, which I must admit I was not a big fan of at first, and then when I got it in my hands, I like it a lot. The only thing I wish they'd done is switch the flashlight lens and the germanium lens, because if you push that button on the right-hand side and turn the flashlight on, and you reach around to wipe the lens is on the right side lined up with the flashlight button. That frustrated this simple firefighter. I had to teach myself right for sight, because I was reaching across and wiping the flashlight lens instead of the germanium lens. I'm sharing with you my failures, okay? It is intrinsically safe, which is an NFPA requirement. If you look at the bottom of the AttackPRO Plus, you will see a locking switch on the battery, which keeps you from removing the battery easily. That is frustrating to many, including myself, but NFPA requires that, because if you pull the battery out or put it back in, you may cause an ignition source or spark. So, oops, I think I hit the button too fast. This is your standard AttackPRO, exact same features as the AttackPRO Plus, but it doesn't have the NFPA certification and it doesn't have the locking battery. A lot of you would say, well, why does it cost more to buy an NFPA just to get the sticker? No, if you look at what they got to go through to get that certification, it's quite expensive. They got to send them lots of cameras to destroy. And then once a year, they've got to come in, they can audit them, inspect them, and they can take a camera off their assembly line and seek thermal camera. And there's a lot of other things that are quite difficult, quite intense, and quite expensive. So if you look at the majority of cameras out there that offer a standard camera versus an NFPA camera, the average is about $1,000 more for the NFPA certification. And if you want to just learn about decision-making cameras in general, we have you another free 1-hour webinar. We're up to 4 hours worth of webinars in this 60 minutes so far that we're giving you the ability to view, share, and check out, that are all on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that and help us out with that. Our goal is to have as many free resources on there for firefighters as possible. So let's talk about your benefits. As you can see, as we're sitting in this container in West Virginia Public Safety Expo, which is a great little conference to go to in May if you can go. Just make sure you take your wife with you because it is on Mother's Day weekend. We're sitting in the floor looking up at the fire, and you can clearly see the bail of the nozzle. You can see the heat above your head. You can see through the color, and you can see down low and the fire simultaneously. This is flipped in the sideways orientation, which is known as the gangster grip. If you notice when we do that, we can see the top to bottom, floor to ceiling in one shot. The AttackPRO offers the earliest colorization on the market. I know some of you are really tick proficient would say, wait a minute, I know some models that also show color around 300 degrees too. How can this be faster? How can this show it earlier? Mixed gain mode is the answer. And mixed gain mode is the reason why you have little to no delay. And this camera gives you the highest performance, the least delay with the widest field of view, made in America, the lowest price point without having to wait on your product to come from some other country 3 to 4 months out, and you get it when you need it. And this camera comes in at an affordable price when everybody's hurting. It has a 6-hour battery life, integrated flashlight, and like I said, it's made in the United States, made in California. And as we talk about, we play with a lot of cameras. This is one side of my van to give you an idea of how many cameras we play with on a regular basis, because we're camera agnostic. We show up with as many cameras as possible to meet the firefighters where they are and let them use their brand and teach them their model. We don't do canned classes. We train them to their model, whether it's an old model, a new model, a situational awareness camera, decision-making camera, a low-price camera, an expensive camera. We even help firefighters who mistakenly bought industrial cameras by mistake. But these cameras are all different, even though the science behind them is the same. The manufacturers change and vary different things from color palettes to when it switches, temperature modes, to field of view, to speed, to a lot of things that you won't know unless you test it in a live fire. As Brent meant in the beginning, check out their burn program. You go in there, you enter your credit card, they give you a camera for, I think it's 2 weeks. You can burn with it. If you ship it back, they don't charge you. If you don't ship it back, congratulations, you own a camera. You can also buy a 5-year, what I call firefighter warranty. They call it the enhanced warranty. I call it a firefighter warranty because basically when you destroy it, they'll send you another camera, like 1 per year, if I remember correctly. And when I said this thing is durable, this is mine after I got back from IFRT in Germany on our most recent trip where I took Thomas Anderson for his first time over there. I think he's officially ruined because he now loves Germany. We're going back in November. But this camera, we beat it up, as you can see, and it's got over 500 hours of burn time with it. The only 2 lenses on the front is the flashlight and the germanium lens. I must mention that Seek is one of 2 manufacturers that has redundancy built into their lenses. If you break that lens, there's another lens behind it and the camera will still work. You can get through the firefight back and then have the lens replaced. If you break any other lens on the market besides a Seek or a Bullard, you're done. Because as soon as you shatter it, it goes straight into the detector and you could ruin or damage or permanently ruin the camera at that point. This one has a lens on top of another lens that's proprietary that makes this camera even faster. It has a rubber housing on it that takes quite a beating and absorbs a lot of shock. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but mine went out a 3rd floor window by accident. It's only supposed to take a 6-foot drop onto concrete. But surprisingly, mine bounced off the gravel and did really well. However, no camera is indestructible. Do not use it as a hammer. I continue to see firefighters bust out windows with these things, or the pick end of the Halligan bar hits it and boom, shatters the lens. Or they left it laying on the ground and it got pointed at the sun. If you point it at the sun, no matter which camera you use, in less than about a minute and a half, you have avoided the warranty. Congratulations, dear Chief. Please take $50 out of my paycheck for the next 2 years. That's how that works. Just let you know, no camera can look at the sun, no, just like your eyes can't look at the sun for very long. If you look at the other competitors out there, as far as the cameras, they're all great cameras. They all have pros and cons. But if you look at just field of view, being able to see the bigger picture, you're looking at the widest field of view with the Seek AttackPRO. However, I want you to know from my friends who are photography gurus and nerds, like they say, there's need to know, nice to know, and nerd to know. I learned that from my good friends Dennis Laguerre and some other people. If you have a really narrow field of view, such as the Bullard camera, that's going to be a pretty going to have that wide landscape field of view. So you have pros and cons when you do this. So make sure you test this out and see the advantage. For me, a wider field of view with good resolution is going to give me more advantageous decision-making power than a very narrow field of view. And I like a Bullard camera. I think it produces a phenomenal image. But you've got to look at these in a fire and let your guys test these to see what works for your firefighters. Which one is easier for them to use? Which one can they understand quickly, easily, without delay? Do they like the way it feels? Firefighters are finicky. We don't like the way it feels, we don't carry it. I want you to check out the gangster grip demonstration in this and why this is important. We're standing at the doorway of a container in Stallings Fire Department, Stallings, North Carolina. And I want you to consider yourself, you're lost, you're disoriented, and you just simply rotate the camera sideways and see if you can pick out how to find your crew and find your way out. Notice we picked up the hose line and the floor when we turned it sideways, holding the exact same orientation. By the way, I didn't come up with this. I found this in a PowerPoint presentation listed by Carrollton Fire and Rescue, Carrollton, Texas in 1999. I believe Chief Bruce Farner was the chief of the department at the time. He's on every NFPA thing you read about. He's one of many people who's influenced me in my life. I highly recommend you read about him and check him out. When we talk about resolution, many of you who are family members who have kids and family, and everybody loves to watch a good movie with their family. Well, you want a high resolution TV where everybody can crowd around at a decent distance. You don't want to sit 3 feet from the TV trying to see detail. Same thing when you're looking down the hallway at a fire. Any camera out there that claims 320 by 240 is going to meet the standard that NFPA requires for the most part, but what you want to look at is how clear is that image? How easy is it to interpret? Is it like the eye doctor when he says better, worse, 1, 2? Which one can your firefighters see? How many of your firefighters have eyesight issues? Do you have a young department, old department? Do you have firefighters who have colorblind issues? You need to take that into consideration. No one ever talks about that in TIC training. I can tell you it's an issue because 12 million Americans are colorblind, and manufacturers who don't think about that, they're going to be in trouble one day because you got to sell it to your customer, not make the product fit no matter what and say, oh, you just have to adapt. No, you have to make it custom to their context, their environment, and their personal challenges. And that's what Seek Thermal has done with this, because the grayscale is actually gray, black, gray, white. Every other camera I look at, with the exception of 2, it's more of a hints of blue. People who've had eyesight issues actually tell me they can see better with the grayscale and the contrast, the sharpness of this. And you can see the firefighter with the fire above them and still make them out. Most cameras, when they switch to low sensitivity, you lose what's down low. That's why low sensitivity is called low sensitivity. You see the heat and you lose detail in those areas that are cooler. This requires, per NFPA, for you to be able to see a small child's hand at 15 feet. As you can clearly see with both these container views of these 2 cameras, you can see a lot further than 15 feet. Whether we'll make out a hand or not is subjective to the person testing it. You need to test these in a live fire environment for you to see for yourself which one is easier for you to see. This life-saving technology, with the proper training, no matter which camera you use, you can locate victims up to 70% faster if you're properly trained and you're fundamentally sound. You can locate the fire faster for extinguishment and prevent what we hear in maydays all the time from Don Abbott's work to others. Encountering high heat conditions, unable to find the fire. Stop that madness. Look before you leap. Before you cross the street, you look. The one device that allows us to see where the fire's been, at, and going needs to be used and needs to be used. Scan slow, work fast. Don't swing this thing around like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. But Michael Whitty's research paper, I highly recommend it, called Maximizing Thermal Imaging Use in Emergency Services, proves with his research, which was extensive, that firefighters who were trained with this device who became disoriented found their way out 100% of the time. So if you don't believe in thermal imaging cameras, I need you to go ask your family what they think about you coming home. Because the them that we all talk about, there's another them that nobody ever talks about anymore, which is your family. They want you to come home. This camera produces amazing grayscale, sharpness, and detail in low, medium, and high heat. This is what rocked my world when we started using it. I was expecting it to perform well in one or the other, not in all 3 ranges. Not remote from the fire, not halfway down the hallway, not in the fire room. It provides really good detail for me to make good decisions without complicated icons or buttons or switches, and I can just communicate and move on. And it makes my job as an instructor easier. That's what you need to know. So enough of me talking. Let's show some video of what this thing could do. Check this out. Colorization, convection currents, firefighters still visible. Fire rolling across the ceiling, high heat, still see down low with the camera. Good field of view. There's the max firebox. Top of the chimney, top of the stairs. Convection currents, colorization. Thermal layering in a room. Still see the floor and make out details. Look at the chair. Check out low and high here. Straw to fire without any delay. Went from the bottom to the top. The camera didn't freeze, didn't lag, and didn't cause you to miss anything. And if you think, oh, well, that's great. What about when I'm outside looking at it? Check out Instructor Thomas Anderson here doing some size up video. This house here, check out the heat coming out the gables. Many cameras will provide this level of grayscale, but very few will provide colorization early because of mixed gain mode. Mixed gain mode basically means each pixel switches independently. So if one pixel picks up 302 degrees Fahrenheit, it shows color. Where every other camera on the market works by percentage base. It has a little sign that says you must be this tall to switch to low gain. Like if you're at an amusement park, this tall to ride. So each one of those cameras requires a certain percentage before the camera will freeze, switch, and a triangle shows up, then showing you low sensitivity. These cameras, each pixel operates independently, and it acts like a video camera when we're looking at it. We don't have to wait, ladies and gentlemen. In an environment that seconds can equate life or death, you don't need a delay. You need to act. And this is how standard cameras have worked up to this point. There are cameras on the market that are single gain, which is basically high sensitivity only. Those are typically your low temperature models. As far as you might see it in a FLIR and search and rescue mode, you might see it in Seek has it in their survey mode. You can see it in thermal scan and Draeger. You can see it in a lot of different models. Those are typically low temperature environment investigative modes, or overhaul mode in Argus. But the majority of them fall into what we call dual gain, high and low sensitivity. The older models used to have a EI symbol that would show up somewhere on the left-hand side, which meant electronic integration. Scott had one that just said hot that showed up. And then MSA had a blue L that showed up in the lower left-hand corner. It was really hard to see. But from about 2012 onward, NFPA 1801 came into play, which standardized when the camera switched to low sensitivity, they had to put a green triangle inside of a box telling you that the camera had switched, meaning it saw a certain percentage of heat, and it switched over, trying to warn you that you are now seeing more heat within the field of view. The majority of firefighters don't know that triangle even exists or why the camera froze and what it was doing. Ladies and gentlemen, if your camera freezes, you should freeze. There's a warning. It's trying to tell you something. There are a few cameras on the market that are tri-gain, which I'm not a big fan of because it splits the entire temperature range up into high, medium, low, high, low, extended low, which sounds great at first by trying to give you more clarity in each span. However, they can delay, they can flash, they can cause different effects that cause you trouble interpreting that. And some of them switch color temperature correlations, requiring you to memorize 3 different color palettes. Yeah, you gonna memorize that at 3 in the morning? Because I'm not. There's only one manufacturer on the market that has mixed gain mode. That means I point, I see, I communicate. I don't have to wait on the triangle. I don't have to realize if I'm in a different application mode. The camera does it automatically, and I can be more effective, and that's the Seek Thermal brand. And if you look, when we talked about the difference in standard gain, dual gain cameras versus mixed gain, these are 2 really good cameras, both looking down through a window on a VES drill at Firehouse Expo, which we will be there in September with instructor Joey Bax's class. Shameless plug there. And if you look, you can see the camera on the top that also colorizes at 302 degrees is not showing color yet, where the Seek is. That camera on the top requires 2% of the pixels to be 302 degrees for 1 second of pixel saturation before it switches. That is the most sensitive camera on the market until the AttackPRO came out. The AttackPRO just requires 1 pixel. See the difference when I was talking about grayscale versus blue? Both great cameras, but you need to understand that majority of them, when they switch between high and low sensitivity, there is a delay. Some of them are really fast. Bullard's 0.3 of a second, one of the fastest ones out there. But only camera out there that acts like a video camera is the AttackPRO. The only one that performed like that before was the Draeger UCF 9000. And as far as I know, it's not in production anymore, but that was one of my favorite cameras to play with. But it was big, it had lots of buttons, and it was like an Xbox game too. If you want to learn more about mixed gain mode, check out the free webinar we have here. Like I say, we've given you tons and tons of resources here, so you can just keep diving down these rabbit holes and keep learning, because we don't want you to take this 60-minute webinar as your only source of learning with this. We want you to test it, check it out, burn with it, and believe it. One of the many questions we get about this particular model is, hey, I looked at this and so-and-so told me it's a 25 hertz refresh rate and it can't keep up with a 60 hertz refresh rate. Fair enough. Let's talk about the big picture. I got a V6 engine versus a V6 engine. One V6 engine is a standard V6. The other one's twin turbo with all kind of different enhancements, has special different things added to it. That V6 engine is optimized for more performance. Let's look at 2 320 by 240 cameras as we check out these demonstrations. We're going to start with the Seek AttackPRO, looking at the floor and going up to the ceiling with a 25 hertz refresh rate. And I want you to look at the detail on my boot, floor, and the fire. And look as we scan around and look at this room. Look at the detail of the bail of the nozzle. You can see it's a smooth bore, yes. And you can see the boots. You can see the heat, the chains. You can see all that behind you. And I'll tell you straight up, this camera performs exceptionally from 100 to 800 degrees. Above 800, it gets a little saturation and the colorization is not as translucent as some other models on the market. So you don't have a perfect camera out there anywhere. But as far as for me being able to work, this is what kills everything. Check this out, 25 hertz versus 60 hertz. We raise both cameras up, the Seek automatically colorizes. The one on the right, there's a delay. Watch again. Color, wait. You ever met a patient firefighter in a fire? Because the one on the right is somebody, if they kept on scanning, they would have missed that fire room. And that's something without training you wouldn't know. So don't buy a camera based on what it does in the day room. Get this thing in the fire and realize 25 hertz is a lot faster when we have mixed gain mode and precision optics and all the things that Seek Thermal has done to make this device faster, smarter, safer, and easier to use for firefighters. You can see the firefighters, and I want you to see this video again. Look right here when we look at the floor. See the blades of straw? Watch when we go up. It did not freeze. I want you to understand this is what we call disruptive technology. It's going to change the market because it makes things better, smarter, safer, and easier on the firefighters. In that video I showed you a little bit ago, when I say 25 hertz versus 60 hertz, watch this again for me. AttackPRO on the left, 60 hertz camera on the right. Notice the 60 hertz camera on the right takes 2 seconds to catch up. 1 1000, 2 1000, color. AttackPRO, color, 1 1000, 2 1000. Both exceptional cameras. You need to know how they perform. I'm not going to badmouth any camera because I love thermal imaging. I'm a thermal imaging advocate. Whatever you got, we're going to teach you to use it. I'm trying to show you one that works easier, safer, and smarter. And why I think mixed gain is going to rule the world is standard gain mode slows firefighters down. It does. It's just a fact. I've seen firefighters outrun a Bullard, which is 0.3 of a second delay, and that's crazy to even think they could outrun it because they're moving so fast and swinging it around. The reason mixed gain mode works better is it colorizes each pixel rather than requiring the entire field of view to agree on a certain percentage of pixels at a certain temperature range to switch. And when they do agree, there is often a delay. And that delay can be very costly when we're talking about lives and property. I want you to look at the majority of the popular ones on the market and look at from the Seek all the way up to the MSA, how many pixels it takes to cause them to switch to low sensitivity. Seek independently, only 1 pixel. FLIR, 2%. Bullard, 3%. Tempest or Leader, 5%. MSA requires 32%. That's a lot. Now that does allow you to stay in high sensitivity longer. So if you're into searching, that's great, as long as you're not worried about thermal severity. You need to know what these mean and why. And if you don't test it in a live fire, you're just, as they say, a well-dressed civilian. As I showed you this picture earlier, I want you to look at the difference in detail and clarity when both lenses have been wiped, both are pointing at the same environment. We're not doing any gimmicks or tricks. There's no Photoshop, there's no editing. You see what we see, okay? Simpler, smarter, faster, more clarity. And here's why I'm so passionate about this. I've been lost and disoriented 3 times in my career, and I should not be here. I've made 2 big mistakes. The other one was just being a rookie and being stupid. But I can tell you that if you are in trouble and you are out of air or you are in pain trying to get out, and your camera delays information to you when you scan a large room and it misses the doorway, the hose line, or your crew, that 2 to 3 seconds could be the difference between hugging your family and your family carrying your casket. I'm not pulling punches. We need to do better. You need to understand that delays equal death in the environment we're in. Firefighters don't calm down when they're dying. They don't. Listen to Maydays. I listened to too many of them. I've been through with my own department that. You need to understand that we need devices that work in the worst case environments when nothing works well. We need the anvil of thermal imaging cameras, and they need to keep working on it because we're not there yet. Check out one of my instructors at a rocking house fire and see why this outperforms many, because as he's moving, this camera keeps up and you see where the fire is, where it's at, where it's been, and where it's going. And because of mixed gain mode, you're able to see grayscale on one side of the building with the reflection, the heat coming off of it, and you see the heat transferring through that single pane glass. Yes, I said single pane glass, heat came through it. Watch when he comes around the side of the building here. Look at the back, see the heat going all the way to the back, all the way to the back porch. Look at that. You see the thermal layer. You can tell where the intake and the exhaust is. Going back to the front, we can see the heat moving through the entire building, where it's most severe at. Look at the detail on the porch. That porch is about to go. Look at the detail in the trees. You could throat punch this thing right here with the 15th, 16th. I'm just saying. Make some headway, right? Look at the amount of heat coming through there and the saturation occurring on that second floor. That's a lot of heat upstairs. And there are people still not wanting to open the nozzle in this world. Do you believe that? People are dying. Look at the heat that's in this. Let's get rid of the heat. See the heat, kill the heat, not killing the victim. Here's different cameras showing the exact same hallways, showing you the difference in picture clarity. I don't want you to believe me. I don't want you to say, I'm going to buy the camera because Andy Starnes said, don't do that. I don't get commission off nothing. I want you to go test these devices and say, Andy, I appreciate it. This device, brand such and such, worked well for me. That makes us happy. It does. Because then we know you're trained on it and you use it correctly and you understand it. We don't want to be brand biased, but I will tell you straight up, I am performance biased. I want you to be able to find the fire, find the victim, and find your way home. Look at these convection currents rolling across the ceiling. 2 cameras, both great cameras. One shows convection currents better and shows colorization earlier. And that is a big difference. Make sure you know the difference by testing. We can provide you a free lesson plan to do that. And this is why mixed gain mode wins. We put all the major cameras side by side. They produce really good images, but you need to know when they show color, when they switch to low sensitivity. Look at them side by side. Watch it. Start with the MSA. When they switch to low sensitivity, your color went away because it won't show color again until 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you know that about your MSA? Great convection currents. Better not wait on color. Check out the Bullard. In low sensitivity, fires to my left. Bullard doesn't work as well in low sensitivity, but watch what it does in high sensitivity. It has one of the best images in high sensitivity. You can see the victim, you can see the door handle, see the hose line. You keep that camera in high sensitivity, you're going to see everything. But when it goes to low sensitivity, you lose detail. This is the FLIR. You have a delay, a grainy effect, and then color. FLIR has one of the better images in upper temperature ranges out there. because of FSX, but look at the detail that you get, but you have to wait on it to catch up. Whereas my friends in Germany here are learning how to search like Americans. Yes, they are getting at it, right? And there's no delay here, and I'm able to see them with the heat behind him with instructor Thomas Anderson at the back there. And then me yelling at him, hey, close that door. He walks away, and I say, no, 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 close the door. I'm not born in a barn, as Chief Ed Harden says. No lag, no delay. And check out the convection currents as we look up at the ceiling and we look down at the firefighters. We're still able to see where we're at, pick up good detail down low. That includes victims, firefighters, holes in floors, layout, chairs, tables, wheelchairs, high chairs. That's an MSA air pack. How did you know that? Because it had a metal band running across it, and metal has a low emissivity. These are the things we want you to understand. We want you to use the camera to your benefit and know up front. There is no perfect camera, but the AttackPRO performs in a way that can make your life easier, smarter, safer, and a lot less frustrating, because it colorizes that environment early. And no matter what my thermographer friends say, firefighters don't respond to grayscale. They say, well, you see this shade of gray, you should do something. There are 255 different shades of gray, 255 contrasting gray Crayola crayons on that screen. The average female can see 30 shades of gray. The average male can see 10. And if you're both under stress, you can see 4. Early colorization matters. The stoplight that you pull up to, red, yellow, green, not 3 shades of red. They do those contrasting colors for a reason. And this is Seek's contrasting color temperature. 0 to 301 degrees is grayscale. Colorization begins at 302 at yellow, orange at 600, red at 800. 368. And check out our friend here in the floor looking at the fire. This gentleman who did the test burns with us in Lompoc, California was 72 years old and outworked me. Hero right here, buddy. Hero. Okay. In there doing it. But look at the detail, look at the cinder blocks. All easy to discern and tell what it is. 2 cameras, exceptional cameras, showing you the same staircase looking down the chimney. One colorizes, one doesn't. This is what mixed gain mode does for you. If you understand thermal imaging, you know both of these images are hot, but you need to know what yours is telling you and why. Many firefighters fail to act because they don't see color. They fail under stress. Most of that comes down to their training. They haven't had enough training with thermal imaging cameras to know what it's telling them. You can fix that no matter what brand you're using. And when you look at these, I want you to see on your average day-to-day dumpster fire how this makes life easier. This one colorized the sides of the dumpster when the other model didn't. The metal is heated up enough that the camera is colorizing it, so we can see as an incident commander, he's flowing water. Is it cooling off the sides and filling up? We tried to fill it up, had a big hole at the bottom of it. It's full of carpet. Put a little foam in there for my foam friends. And you could see whether he's making headway or not. I can see what's going on. The camera doesn't lag, doesn't delay the information, gives me good colorization, gives me good detail. I can see the captain walking around, coming back to check on his guy. Everyday life for firefighters. And you're not fighting the big house fire every day. You're fighting car fires, dumpster fires, brush fires, all kind of stuff. You're dealing with stuff. Make your life easier with a camera that doesn't delay the information or overcomplicate things. And this is my favorite one so far. Instructor Joey Baxus gave us this great video of a house fire. I want you to look at the grayscale. Grayscale is something that I used to not really pay attention to. It has to be a healthy balance between grayscale and colorization. And the grayscale on this particular 360, seeing them above the fire here is exceptional. Then my boys here showing you fire behavior training, looking at the amount of convection and colorization above their heads, the thermal layers hitting them right in the forehead. That's a lot of heat. That's moving fast too. Fast heat transfer. And then the video I showed you earlier of the 360, check out the amount of heat coming across the porch. Still seeing detail within the color, which is an NFPA requirement that says detail shall be resolvable within colorization up to the point of saturation. And then some boys here getting some work done. Thomas Anderson's work here, check them out, moving into through the front door, and then the burn down phase of the building. Exceptional detail and showing color without loss of image clarity. And then my favorite shot, which is smoothbore nozzle. So You can see the heat reflecting off the bail of the nozzle. You can see the reflective striping on my gear, my Firedex gear, and my boot. And it doesn't delay that. One more video for you because I want you to see fire, fire, fire. Not just me talking, I want you to see performance. I want you to notice that every video I showed you, there wasn't a loss of clarity either up high or down low. Camera does saturate around 800, 900 degrees. You start to lose detail behind the colorization at that point. But anywhere between 100 and 800 plus, nothing else out there performs like this camera does. And those of you who've been using this camera may have noticed there is no spot temperature in the bottom right-hand corner. NFPA 1801 2021 standard removed it because it was cited in three line of duty deaths as a contributing factor, and the misuse of this by firefighters. If you read page 4 of it, you see the following statements where it says, despite the manufacturer's warnings not to do this, it's apparent that firefighters lack understanding of this application mode. We see the number, we read it, and we think that's the overall temperature in the environment. It's not. It's not even close. Why is that true? I need you to do some homework because this is an epidemic in the fire service. It's our most read article on our website, The Danger of the Spot Temperature. It quotes a line of duty death from Houston. You need to read about it, check that QR code, go to that article, pay attention to the word emissivity, distance to the target, all the things that can interfere with you and seeing the correct temperature. You're using a qualitative device that sees apparent temperatures, not exact measurements. And if you're an inspector in thermography where you're doing building science, like my friend John Harnage at Kentucky Thermal, they know this intimately because emissivity is the single most important attribute in temperature measurement. And you cannot adjust it in a fire service camera, which means you cannot count on that camera to give you an exact measurement. And as friend Brent said at the beginning, we don't want you to believe me or him. I want you to go put it to the test. So 2 QR codes that are most important. One, scan the top one in your credit card, boom, they ship you a camera. 2, scan the bottom one and you get a free lesson plan on how to test it. Because I don't want you to go just play with it. I want you to understand this device is meant to be tested in a fire. If you turn the camera on, it's going to turn on in 5 seconds. Every camera on the market is going to go through what they call flat field correction in the first 30 seconds. You may see delay on any camera when you first turn it on. Do yourself a favor, if you're going to a fire, turn it on while you're in the fire truck. Don't wait till you're at the front door and turn it on and realize the camera's lagging because it's warming up. So then take the device into a fire and do the things we told you to do in that lesson plan. We talk about scanning, we talk about looking at convection currents, colorization. Is there any delay? Can you identify parts of the room, put some targets in there? Do a string placement drill, look for thermal rebound. Can you easily see the convection currents? Can you knock the color back and see it come back? Test all of that and put your top 3 cameras side by side and then grade them. And you decide, not the salesman, not me. You're the one who's going to use it. Be involved in decision making in your fire department. Give them data to use, as Bill Carey says, data, not drama, and show them why you want to use this device. Because ticks are a significant investment in 2005. Now they're as low as $3,000 to as much as $9,000, depending on what you want to spend. I want you to get as much guidance from as much experts as possible and understand that you might not want to buy a $9,000 model that was made in 2013. Just saying. Because some of these models are not current. Know that. Look at the model, look at the year, look at who's making it, and look at it. Are they making something new? Because if they made something in 2013, odds are they're about to make something new. They made something in 2018, it's going to be around for 5 years because that's when your consensus standards change, is about every 5 years. Your department needs to understand that about every 5 years, you probably need to buy cameras, and you need to invest money in buying batteries because every fire department ruins batteries. You can look up our maintenance article on our website. It tells you how not to ruin batteries. And this is how we can help each other, help firefighters, and help everyone. Please check out our social media pages. We post content 7 days a week, 2 to 3 times a day sometimes. Use our resources, our articles, our quick reference guides, webinars, and more. Use it all. Share it. People are like, you worried about people stealing your content? No, I'm worried about them dying in a fire with a device they don't know how to use. That's what I'm worried about now. I have no pride, no ego left. I'm worried about one thing: you and your family, period. Okay? I'm at that point in my life, I don't care if somebody steals something and goes out and tries to make $1 million. Doesn't bother me. They got to sleep at night. And I'm going to sleep at night knowing that I'm trying to get you to save your life and save others. Email us, text us, send us a quick message, and check this out. If that's not enough, we give you a free Google Drive. You scan this QR code, my email will blow up. I'll hit approve, and you get access to it. Got presentations, videos, webinars, literature. And then share it with other people. Just make sure you put a note. Hey, I watched your webinar. Please let me in. Because if I don't know who you are, I'm not letting you in. So just put a little note on there for me, because our email blows up every single day. And here's our social media contact information, all right here for you. And that, my friends, concludes the presentation with roughly 4 minutes to spare. Brent, if you have any questions in the chat room, I'll take them now.
Yeah, there's a question about video recording. Can I turn it off? So it's a good mention on the AttackPRO.
The AttackPRO currently doesn't have video recording. We recorded most of that with our cell phones and GoPros. We got a special model from Seek that does that. That's something I'll let Seek answer on if that's going to be a potential option in the future. The FirePro 300, on the other hand, does have the recording. And I know that most manufacturers, if contacted, can give you a firmware update to turn off video because I understand the Freedom of Information Act, security issues, things of that nature. Military organizations have asked for no photo or video capture. So yes, that is doable. Can be turned off, can be turned on. That is not something that is a non-negotiable, if that's the question.
Yep. A lot of encouragement too. Andy's awesome. Thanks. Amazing class. There's a question about where to find dealers. So we've got a great group of dealers. The place you need to go is thermal.com. Visit the AttackPRO page, and then they find a dealer button, and there you can navigate by country and see all of our authorized dealers. So use that. How do I watch this? Yep. Andy, as he mentioned, he'll be posting these on his YouTube. So please, as he mentioned, subscribe, follow Andy. He puts out a ton of great educational content. If you want to follow us, we're at Seek Thermal on most of our handles. Website is thermal.com. We're building out a training section of our site, which will contain a lot of these videos. There's a bunch that Andy's already shot that are mini series on FirePro 300, AttackPRO, FirePro X. So there's a lot of great 2-minute videos on how the different functions of the cameras work. So stay tuned for that. But that concludes our webinar. So thanks everyone for joining. Thanks Andy again for another great webinar, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks again. Take care.